Hello, everyone. I have grabbed Michael Damiani to talk about Visions of Mana, or Mana, one of those things. I think they go with Mana. Um, but yeah, I got to play this not too long ago. I got to play two kind of sections of the game. And yeah, I'm excited. This is the first new game in the series for 15 years. And it's being worked on by some of the staff that have worked on these remakes that have been coming out. So Secret of Mana in 2018, Trials of Mana in 2020, and Legend of Mana 2021. The producer worked on all three of those, and then some of the other people. Hiroki Kikuta, though, from the original Secret of Mana sound team and Trials of Mana sound team, is back on this, which is nice. So hopefully we should have like similar music and that kind of thing.
That's pretty cool to hear, yeah.
And then Damiani, I don't know what your history on the Mana series is. For me, I played the original Final Fantasy Adventure on Game Boy. And I don't know how long it was before I knew that it was connected to Secret of Mana. I played Secret of Mana on Super Nintendo. I played Secret of Evermore, which I know doesn't really count, but it was, kind of based off of that same template. I played Children of Mana on the GBA, which was like a remake of Final Fantasy Adventure. And then, like, I didn't play any of, like, the PS1, PS2 games. I didn't play anything until Trials of Mana, the Super Nintendo game, came out on that collection in, like, 2019, I want to say. And I played that with Ben and Brad. And then I reviewed the Trials of Mana remake when that came out in 2020.
Okay. I have tried to play through Secret of Mana a handful of times, and I don't think I've ever finished it, unfortunately. And I am pretty sure, I don't know if I finished it, but I definitely played some amount of Sword of Mana on Game Boy Advance.
Yeah,
back in
maybe
the
it was
day.
Sword of Mana that was the one I played. Whichever one was the remake, I think you might be right. It might have been Sword of Mana.
It's a was it? I don't. It's an enhanced remake of the first game. Yes.
Okay, so Sword of Mana. Maybe I did play another one too. I don't know. There's so many. This is such a huge series.
Yeah, it's one that I really haven't been able to put a lot of time in, but definitely when they announced this, I mean, I've seen what they've done in the more recent ones with the remaster efforts and then remake efforts, and seeing the this one, Visions of Mana, and how this visually, it definitely like caught my eye, and the combat looking like, I'm very curious here about the combat because it looked like it was a little bit more real time actiony.
Yeah.
Than,
Yeah, let me get some of the
before
setup stuff out of the way first.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're definitely going to get into that. So it's semi-open world. Like I said, I played two sections of the demo. One was Mount Gala or Gaia, and that's like an early story area, and there's a boss fight and stuff in there. And then there's a fallow step, which was more open, and they actually said was like it's still kind of early, like they haven't put into a lot of the objectives and things into that area yet, but they just kind of like wanted to show off an area where you could have a little bit more freedom and exploration. But like you were saying, like the art style on this and the budget, it's definitely like not up to like the Final Fantasy budget yet, but it's a big step up from where Trials of Mana was, which was a step up from where the Secret of Mana remake was.
Yeah,
So
I mean, it comes across in it. I mean, the trailer that I saw with this walking across like the sweeping environments looked very good.
yeah,
And like the scale of the environments looked very good. And yeah, as you said, giving it a little bit more budget, that's been kind of like a thing. Some of like the maybe not quite under the radar, but like not quite the biggest names in RPG franchises have tried doing in the last few years. Like Tales series did that with Arise.
yeah.
I mean, people describe Tales of Arise as Tales finally with a budget. So it definitely helps when your game looks pretty good when it's a big 3D RPG. I'll say that much.
Yeah, and the art style really definitely it echoes what you've seen in a lot of the illustrations going back for years. Like it really feels like it's part of that world when you look at the character models and everything. And there's just like a lot more like in terms of the world stuff, like there's like a lot more like vegetation and little details and objects around and the environments. And environments are more complex too, I think. Um, the story, it's a little bit it's like it's familiar, but it also kind of feels like it's a little bit on a different path than the ones that I played at least. So there's like each of these different villages, it seems like, sends like they call them an alm. Um,
Okay.
and so like the fire village is sending out their fire alm, and then there's like a wind alm, and like each one of these different elements has their own alm that goes every 4 years to the mana tree to kind of like rejuvenate it, and kind of like lend them their power or whatever. And that alm is accompanied, the fire village alm is accompanied by what they call a soul guard. So you have your two main characters, are Hina, the girl who's the alm, and
Okay.
Val, who is a soul guard that you play as. So you don't actually play as Hina, as far as I can tell.
Okay.
And then there are two other playable characters in your party, which I'm not sure how they get introduced, because I didn't see the actual intro. I just kind of got like a description of it.
Gotcha.
But there is a girl named Karina, who's from some kind of like dragon-like people. So she's got like a long tail, and she's got one wing. One of her wings is missing. So you got a little.
Oh, okay.
And then, do you remember? So you said you didn't finish Secret of Mana, but have you seen like the kind of like pink dragon or whatever that's toward the end of that you get to fly around the world with?
I feel like I've seen it in it's the it has like the wings. Don't they have like tipped wings or something that are like colorful? I've seen a 3D version of it. I feel like.
Yeah, it sort of looks,
And
it
what did I
reminds me a
see it
little bit
in?
of like the dragon from Neverending Story.
Yeah. Okay. Like Falcor, like
Yeah,
the
yeah.
white, like a little bit, but like it has like colored hair though, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like orange hair or red hair or something. Yeah. Okay. Then I don't think I saw it in my Secret of Mana playbook, but I've seen it in some other version of it somewhere.
Okay, so basically, remember that dragon,
Mm-hmm.
Karina, she has a companion that's basically like a baby version of that,
Oh, okay.
named Ramco. So it's a sacred beast cub, that follows you around, and then you also can like give some like, I don't know if you actually give it command. I'm trying to remember if you actually give it commands or if it just like auto attacks along with you, but it's accompanying her when you
Okay.
play as her. And then there's Morley, who's the fourth or the third playable character. He's kind of like more of a cat-like race, similar to the Beastren that are in Dragon's Dogma.
All right.
And he's got kind of a ninja aesthetic going on with him. So like by default, like he has like a katana or whatever.
That's
Um,
pretty cool.
And then kind of the way that like the weapons and classes in this work is that you have the different elementals that you find, like Sylphid and Luna and all of those.
Mm-hmm.
You then like equip them onto a character, and that changes their class and the weapon
Okay.
you use. Yeah.
Okay. Makes
And
sense.
yeah, so with the first demo in Mount Gala, Val was a Rune Knight, and using a great sword. And then Morley had these twin knives, so it was a lot faster. And then Karina had a spear.
Okay.
And then you could switch between them just on the fly. And then you have your basic attacks on the face buttons, but then if you hit hold R1, you can toggle between a bunch of shortcuts. So you can have all
Okay.
of these different spells assigned to the face buttons, and then you can have items assigned to the D-pad.
Okay. That's pretty. That makes sense. I'm used to that type of control scheme.
Yeah,
It's pretty
so
cool they're using it. Yeah.
yeah, so you can like be on one character, toss a fireball, flip over to another character, and then follow up with another thing. And what's interesting is when I like watched the B-roll that they gave me for when they played, like they were like going crazy, like
Oh.
really quickly, like combining a lot of effects and stuff. But the traditional mana ring menu is there as well, And
Okay.
so if you're more like me and you feel like that kind of like pace is a little bit more chaotic, you can hit the ring menu and pop that up and take it as like a more tactical approach because when you pull the ring menu up, everything pauses.
Okay, that's nice. They give you both options.
Yeah, so you can almost treat it like a turn-based thing in a way. You still have to like attack and dodge and stuff in real time, but you have that option in terms of like, okay, what spell do I want to use and what items do I want to use. One thing that was nice though is like when I popped a healing item, it would just kind of go to like whoever needed it most, so I didn't have to think about it too much.
Ah, all right. That's good to have that kind of logic. Yeah.
Yeah. And then when you're exploring and stuff, there's a lot of little items and stuff that like like I didn't have the context for like why I'm picking up like these little orange orbs and things. And there are also some treasure chests, but there are also like a lot of like colored jars that
Hmm.
will refill your health and mana and your special meter. Um, and then there are these spots where you have the different like little elementals. You can have like these context sensitive interaction points. So the first area is like a wind area, and there are ones that would like create like a little whirlwinds that would like kind of like toss you up in the air and like let you cross over a gap that way. Um,
Okay.
and then there are other ones where like when you'd interact with them, they would like the wind would like blow up a path of like platforms that you could hop across.
That's pretty cool. I like those types of environmental interactions when you use that type of stuff. So that's kind of nice that they have that in place.
Yeah. And then the boss there is the mantis ant, which it was I think was in that first trailer.
Yeah, it's that big green thing. Yeah, with the like mantis looking, the mandibles or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of a take on like one of the earlier mana bosses that kind of is I think has come back a couple of times, but it was like doing the full thing with like almost MMO style with like you could see like the area of effect uh, spots
Nice.
to dodge and stuff. Like when it was going to jump up and do a ground pound on you, like you would see a big circle underneath. And then there will be times when it would like blow out like this like cloud of poison, and you have to stay away from that. Um, and
And
then what's up?
they had that system in Trials of Mana too, right? Like the AOE markers. Like I don't know when they first started doing that, but I do remember watching you guys play a little bit, and it had like you were pointing that out as well. So I kind of like that the Mana series. I don't know if it's been doing that for a while, but I kind of like that they still kind of have that MMO like battle system, even though it's not an MMO. It's kind of like you don't really see that too much in single player offline games where they'll just like show all those AoEs off. Usually you got to like react to visual cues or something else. So it's kind of like nice.
Yeah, and it's still pretty challenging. You also have a special that it kind of varies based on your class. And so there's one when your special meter fills up. Like I was hitting that whirlwind as many times as I could. And then Morley also his special was like a shadow clone kind of attack, which was nice. But I don't think they had that in the footage, unfortunately. Um, and then the second demo I had to it was like completely disconnected. They basically had to reset me and load a different save file. But this was that's what I was saying. That's the more open one that was Fallow Step, and it was a really nice looking area. It was kind of like a valley, so that you could see across the other side, but then like it dipped down in the middle. But it had like I said, it had like a lot of complexity to where it's like there's like a lot of little cliffs and side spots and things like that to explore. Um, and that's where you can also ride the pick cool. Remember they?
Ah, yeah, the big mount, the doggo wolf looking mount thing, right?
Yeah, it's a big old doggos. Maybe a little bit too big. It's funny if you look at their if you look at them riding, it's like their legs are spread way wide. I'm like, oh, I was like, you need like some kind of saddle or something on them. But it's nice to get around quickly, and especially like to jump over cliffs and things like that. You just can summon them at any time in those open world areas with like a bell, and they'll like just run straight through enemies too. They won't kill enemies; they'll like do a little bit of damage, but you don't have to worry about essentially getting into those random encounters. You can just run across the landscape with them. Um, and then oh yeah, that's when I got to play a little bit more with the different classes. And in that area, I was able to um, turn Karina into a dancer with like a fan to attack instead of the spear. Whereas with Val, I had him as an Aegis, who has like a lance, and
Okay.
that's where I got to use Morley with the katana as well. Because yeah, like the great sword in the first one, like I'm not always that good with great swords with the speed. So like the lighter attacks on the other two characters were better, but the lance I think it worked a little bit easier for me.
All right, that's good to hear.
Um,
And they did they all have like a lot of the footage I saw? I have to ask the do a lot of the characters like fight in the air a lot? Because I know a lot of the footage they've shown off, the characters keep like launching up into the air and then like fighting a lot in the air. Were you kind of like doing that a lot, or did you find that maybe you were like I don't know, like are they like kind of like it looked like they were focusing on that a lot in a lot of the early trailer and that Xbox developer direct they showed a lot of the footage looked like you were fighting in the air a lot, even like casting your spells in the air while you're airborne.
yeah, it's a funny thing because like I don't really understand like what the necessarily the appeal to that is, but it is definitely
Okay.
something that you can do. Like as soon as you start attacking in the air, it's just like essentially cancels gravity.
Okay.
So, so
Just stay up
yeah, you
there.
can do that a lot, and then like you can like be attacking in the air and then swap to somebody else or whatever. Um, I didn't really see like an advantage to attacking in the air versus attacking on the ground, except that like just some enemies are taller or some enemies like bees are floating in the air, so it's easier to hit them without having to worry about falling down and like just jumping over and over again. But um, yeah, there's a lot of different elemental effects with the spells too, like beyond like just like using a fire element or whatever. Like a ice spell like will completely freeze an enemy. Um, the second area I had access to Luna as well as Sylphid, and Luna does this thing that I saw. I don't think I actually got to use it, but I saw it in the footage where it can create like a bubble that slows down time inside of it.
Ah,
So that's really useful. Obviously, so that you can just kind of wail on a boss or something. And then they said too that there's another thing that Luna can do where you can like it'll like speed up the casting time for your spells as well. Um, so that's nice having those different things. A couple other things I saw when I was wandering around out there. There were like crystals that you can find that align to one of the different elements, and when you like find them in the world and hit them, they'll like power up that element for 5 minutes or however long it is.
okay.
And then I did come across like a stone circle that had like a lot of different elementals represented on it, and it was like very clear. It was like, oh, okay, this is something to come back to later. So I'm curious how that will be going back and forth. And even though they didn't have like a lot of activities and stuff filled in, there was this one guy there that had like a clear like exclamation point quest for
Hmm.
you. And he was like, "My house has been attacked by monsters. Like, I need somebody to go help." And you
Of
get over there,
course.
and there's those little mole bear, the hedgehog looking guys,
Okay. Yeah.
with one big, like it was like actually physically larger, like boss mole bear. And that was actually surprisingly tough. That guy
Oh yeah.
zipping all around back and forth. I think it might have been harder than than
Hmm.
fighting the real boss before. So, but yeah, so I got to that, and then that was pretty much what I got to play. So I think I got everything in there.
Nice.
Unless you got any like specific questions.
No, the one thing I asked about is the. I mean, they in the developer direct they showed off a lot of the preserving like the look of the enemy designs from the artwork, and
Yeah.
you seeing it in action. I mean, did you know? imagine looked even better seeing it, up front rather than in a video presentation. So they like the enemies look nice. They have good animations. I know they were like really highlighting the unique animations for each enemy in that presentation.
Yeah, I mean, it's like one of the things like when you're at a short demo like this, that like you don't get to really pay attention that much. It's like I
Okay.
just like, all right, there's some things, let me whack them. But they definitely, yeah, the visual design definitely like holds true to like what you expect. These traditional mana characters, monster designs to look like. Um, the one thing that I'm curious about is just like, yeah, as you get deeper into the game, like, how many new designs and things that we're gonna see. Um, but yeah, so they say the monster illustrations are by Airi Yoshioka from Dawn of Mana, Children of Mana, and Heroes of Mana. And then the monster design supervision is from Koichi Ishii, who's
Yep.
at Grezzo, who I think worked on some of those earlier Mana games before they went and formed Grezzo.
Sounds good. Sounds like it's got some promise. I mean, I know it hasn't. I mean, it's a series that Square Enix, still prides itself in, but maybe really hasn't always found its footing in the West. I feel like,
Yeah,
but they're definitely. I feel like the art style, while not completely one to one, it definitely harkens a little bit to like the Dragon Quest style than like Final Fantasy. It's not like it's less high fantasy and more of like that storybook,
yeah,
kind of like manga style of art direction, which generally tends to be like much more colorful and like cutesy looking, like monsters and enemies. That's why I was asking about that because it tends, but it also sometimes people look at that and say, oh, that's like either they have their reservations about it, but I do think they've been building upon what they've been trying with the more recent entries and coupled with like, hey, we've only been like remaking past ones. Now let's take a crack at a brand new entry. Yeah, I think this is like this can find like a good a good audience if people would give it a chance. I strangely think like people who are like me who are like into like Final Fantasy 14 or MMOs like that might actually enjoy like should maybe give this a chance. Like the more I look at it, I'm like, yeah, like at least the boss fights, I'm like, I feel like I might actually enjoy these a lot, even if they're not really that challenging. It's just a type of combat style that just feels good to play for someone like me. For me, the question is like, what's like the story hook for this? Is it gonna be a little too simple? And even simple can be good sometimes. Like does it at least have charm? And
yeah.
also like the music. I mean, it doesn't have to be knock it out of the park good, but I also I don't know what to expect. I'm not like I only know like the tracks from Secret of Mana, and there's some pretty good tracks in there, but I'm not as well versed with the rest of the series in terms of like its reputation for its music. So,
Yeah.
but it's Square Enix, so it's like I would expect to have some pretty good music in there at some points. And then yeah, just like the large environments they keep showing off that you talked about, like it looks like it will be just kind of like at least interesting to go through them and try and explore and look around and see what you can like find and do. It's just can they keep that up for the whole remainder of the game, and how, as you said, will like enemies get more varied? How are the other like the alms you equip to get, or if that's right, to get the different jobs? Sorry if I
Oh, the
was wrong,
elementals,
but
yeah.
elemental. Sorry, like how many more jobs do they have in store, and like do they all feel unique to play? And
Yeah, yeah, that's one of the things
yeah,
I'm curious too, and like I need to like go back and refresh myself on Trials since now it's been like 4 years since I played Trials of Mana, which is surprising. But that was one of the biggest things with that game was just like the complexities, in the class system and like the different ways that the story could go and stuff. So um, with this, it seems like it's still a little bit more on the simpler side in
hmm
terms of like your characters and all of that, since you like it does seem like you have a set party. Um, but yeah, I'm curious how they yeah, how that stuff basically develops overall. Especially since again, like there are a lot of the people that worked on those last three remakes, and so like now they've got a really good foundation of like what this series is all about, and so hopefully they can do something new, which I think that's the most exciting thing. It's just like, is a new Mana game, and the Trials remake was really pretty good, and now they've got enough budget to like make it feel like something that's a little bit more impressive, even if it's not like blow your mind impressive.
Sounds good.
So that is coming out. Where's my notes on this? That is coming out in the summer. They haven't put a date on it yet. And then it's going to be on PC, PS4, PS5, and Xbox Series X and S.
Not Switch.
We
knew this already, but yeah.
So
yeah.
Maybe that cool. Switch 2 will get it.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I don't know if it really needed to be stated. I think it's like probably most certainly coming out.
Yeah, we're probably going to get a lot of ports when that system comes out.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, Damiani, thank you for talking to me about it, and look forward to seeing that there. If you are not familiar with Easy Allies, we are a fan-funded group of critics, journalists, video producers, all that fun stuff. You can check out our other videos on YouTube. We have a podcast that goes up every week where we talk about games and the latest headlines. And we're supported by our viewers, so go to patreon.com/easyallies if you would like to throw in a couple bucks and help keep this thing going. Thanks, and see you soon.